Hey there, ladies and gents, welcome back to Avorion, and come here. I am going to very quickly rebuild Spazzy's scout again, because, I mean, one time wasn't enough. Okay, so, a bit of backstory. The reason why I even rebuilt that thing in the first place was simply because it was in the middle of the Let's Play that I needed a new ship, and so what I did was use one of the pre-generated versions of these ships in order to very quickly make one. So after that, what we did was we had that little build log that lasted an hour, and all we did was basically just bolt on some armor on it and just make it as good as it could get. Well, needless to say, I still think that that is completely stupid of me. I have no clue why I did that, and what I'm going to do now is do something that I was suggested, which was I was just going to rebuild it completely and fully. So let's very quickly switch to Spazzy Scout. I'm going to save it as a ship just for the sake of seeing what kind of ship stats I need to build. And just like that, save current design, there it is, Spazzy Scout. I mean, it doesn't look that bad anymore with the expanded sides with the torpedoes, but I think we can do better than that. Anyway, at the time recording this video, the 3.5 you cannot advance has been posted, and really, the whole situation there was that sometimes it is very challenging for me to figure out how much footage I have, because we don't really have a kind of set amount that we play. We just play until we stop playing, you know? And, well, essentially what happened is we got through this whole battle thing, we did the whole mission, then we looted everything, and then, you know, stuff like that. The mission still made the cut for episode 3, but at the same time there just was not enough, you know, room for episode number 4. And so all I had to do was just say, okay, you know what, this is basically going to be episode 3.5 and, you know, whatever. We are going to be recording our next session this Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully I'm not going to make the same mistake where I set my alarm clock, or rather, where I don't set my alarm clock. Anyway, let's go with Spazzy's Scout again, and what we're going to do, we're just going to import the current version. Actually, we're not even going to do that much. All I'm going to do here is going to show all stats. I'm also going to add a crew and a captain, just for the sake of, you know, completeness. And let us very quickly write down the stats. So we're currently looking at a 5.36K hull, something that, by the way, I'm already going to be using, because Erdoth's ship is actually much more armored than this, or at least it has a lot more hit points than mine, and Mutt's ship is also getting there, so for some reason, my ship currently is actually the weakest, so I'm just going to aim for a solid 10k with 4 slots, and basically that's it. That's really all that we need to know. Now then, I was thinking about what kind of overall design I wanted to do, and I think that the one that I'm going to be taking is one of the kind of, I don't know how many of you actually have seen that show, but Oban Star Racers, they had the kind of catamaran design, but not really. I'm going to very briefly show you what I mean. So you kind of have this center, you know, center part with the crew quarters and such. After that, you have kind of to the side, something like this. Very quickly, just this is not going to be for realsies. Kind of like this, and then you have the stem towards the front, something like this. And this over here is basically going to be the engine department, right? So this is where the engines are going to go, kind of like this. You know, this, like what I'm doing right now is just very, very simple. Basically a design like this. It's kind of very similar to a Star Wars, you know, thing, but not exactly. Like, we are actually going to make use of all of this a little bit more properly than that. But yeah, so just like that, the current hull rating is already 31,000. Obviously, we're not going to be doing it like that. And we're going to be doing this kind of smartly, and we're going to start off with a titanium integrity field generator, which then afterwards we're going to set to a middle snap, just like that. And we are just going to make a 1x1 kind of channel. Something like that, just a little bit more. Let's go with 10, just for the sake of it. There we go. Very good. And now we are going to continue this towards the front like so. The one thing I really like about this design is that, technically speaking, I can expand the ship backwards in any way that I want, right? Anyway, now we are actually going to do something about the crew quarters. And also, I'm going to make sure that I don't really... You know, this is actually taking a lot of energy, so I kind of wonder if I need to make this a little bit smaller. Although we do have that battery thing. One of the things that we salvaged from that mission was the energy generator upgrade. Neither Mutt nor Eridoth seem too interested in it, so let's say I'm going to be making this ship with the thought that maybe they might want to give it to me. But not really. Okay, you know what? For now, let's switch it back to armor mode, and let's very quickly design this place right here. So, in terms of how I want to do these crew quarters, nothing too fancy, really. So let's kind of do it like this. Well, first of all, let's abandon the middle snap. We don't really want that. We're going to go with local snap instead. And let's make this front just a little bit more pointed, something like this. Sorry. Something like this. There we go. And it can be kind of like this, maybe. Now, as for the bottom, it can be kind of lopsided, like maybe this will be the place for the third engine, although, quite frankly, I think this place is going to be taken up by the generator. Let's leave it as it is right now. I'm not going to put too much detail into this just yet, although we will make sure that it's a little bit more, well, a lot bit more detailed than it is already. Okay, let's see if can kind of do it like this. Yep. Well, that was not exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, let's go with 0.2. Let's also disable the mirror for just a moment. Grid size and scale step, we can make it just a little bit finer. So now I kind of... Okay, so here's the thing. Currently my selected block is obviously not the same size, but for some reason I cannot tell the game that, hey, just adhere to the size, right? It does not want me to do that. It says 3.5, and obviously with a scale step of 2, that's not gonna happen. So I have to do it something like this. Well, that's not ideal at all. but it will be fine enough. So this is that situation once more where these parts don't exactly line up, and there's probably a better way to do this. So what I did here was make sure that, okay, can I make it even smaller? Yeah, this will be fine. There we go. We can do the same thing up here, something like this. And I will leave this as it is right now, right here, because I do have an idea on how to make this a little bit more detailed, a little bit more interesting after the fact. But right now, it really is what it is. It's like, you know, it's like a bridge cockpit sort of thing that is being attached towards this centerpiece line. Okay, so let's do something about the engines themselves. I think I had the right idea, by the way, although I have a specific idea on how I want to do this, kind of, but not really. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure that this thing is as it is, like this. Let's make it 5. And let's make it 4. Something like this. Okay, so regardless of the end result, this is quite a lot of engine, by the way. So let's go back. Let's very quickly add both a crew and a captain. And, well, yeah, that's half 1,000 meters per second of acceleration with 0 deceleration, but we don't need to worry about the deceleration just yet. The way that this is going to actually work is I'm actually going to make it seem that the engines are a little bit smaller than they actually are. And the way that I'm going to do this is just by adding these plates over here. And the actual engine parts of the engine are going to be kind of like this. So bear with me as I figure this out. This is going to be kind of like this. Alright. Actually, no. And we are actually going to make it a little bit like this. We're going to leave some room over here. Alright. So, after that, let's fit one more over here, like that. So again, this is the actual engine. Kind of like this. Oop. Oh. Screw that up a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's the engine right there. And obviously we want one more over here. Like this. Now, the reason why I wanted to do it like that is because it will allow me to do the following thing. I can take the iron glow. Let's pick a light bluish kind of color like this. Alright. And now we're going to make it flush with these plates over here. Kind of like this. There we go. Well, that really does look like an engine, right? Like an engine glow. There we go. There we go. I'll probably need to make it something different. Simply because it is kind of bright. Yeah, something like this. So, these are going to be our engines. like this. There we go. We'll cover all of that as well. So, welcome. These are our engines, so to speak. We'll probably just fill this in. Okay, first things first, we will want thrusters. That's a definite. Like that. There we go. This will be fine. Also, no color. Thank you. Almost accidentally colored that thing in. We don't need that. There we go. And, also, the rest of this is also going to be just straight up. Okay, so first things first, how big is this place? So once more, this video is not going to be edited in any way. Because I do believe that it might be reasonably interesting to watch. And there we go. Is it flush? Yes, yes it is. Okay, let's add the same thing here. There we go. And one more in the center. Kinda like this? Oh, this is not even remotely close. Okay, we'll have to think about that. So, already we need 4.93 gigawatts of energy. So needless to say, that's not happening. I think that the way that we're going to design the actual is going to be kind of like this. Let's place a 2. And from there, we can actually extend these parts like this. Alright. I want to make sure that they are, in fact, as close to the general shape, so to speak. Yeah, there we go. Kind of like that. Yeah. So, what I wanted to fill these parts in, by the way, was actually torpedo storage. Because I think that torpedoes in general might actually be a very, very important thing for us. There we go. And also, for just, you know, just for the sake of that texture. Now, all of this... by the way, we are currently up to 5.41, so that's good. So, over here, we're not going to be gentle at all. It really is what it is. It's just going to be straight up, just, like, cover everything with as thick armor as possible. With that being said, we are actually going to... Okay, no. You know what? We're going to do this a little bit more differently. So this is where the integrity field actually comes in. It's going to be kind of like that. Going to make sure that everything that we can is, in fact, covered by that thing. But we're not going to be overly troublematic with it. Now, the thing is, I fully understand that like, a ship like this does not really make sense from a design point of view, simply because you're putting some of the more important components in front of you. There's also not a very good view from the bridge, but hell, it looks okay. And sometimes that is more than enough, right? It's gonna place more of that armor down just in case. Something like that. There we go. Something like that. Something like this. Okay, there we go. Now, the exact specifics of this part is not really important. We are going to be covering all of that in just a moment. Just going to make sure that some of these integrity fields are covered like this. There we go. And we're going to envelop all of this a little bit later. Now then, let's take a look over here. So, I kind of want, I think, the way that I want to do this, is I actually do want to make it similar to this, so that's going to be one side like this. Okay. There we go. I will have to temporarily make this into something that is not obnoxiously just very, very bright. Let's not do that. Okay, so the way I want to do it is something like this. But I can't tell if it is flush or not. It's not. Okay. What about now? Nope. Almost. Close enough. It's gonna be something like that. All I wanted is to kind of have a... I'm not even sure how to call it. The thing is, like, in the show, it kind of just follows all the way towards the back. And in our case, we don't really need that. It would make this thing terribly, terribly big. Anyway, I think we will first need to fill this in. Yeah, there we go, something like that. It's not liking something. Well, whatever. I think I know what the problem is there. It's just that I don't want to deal with that. Something like this. Something like this. Okay. And now we can just fill out the rest of this. Kind of like that. Not really, because Oh, wait, why did I do... Should be a little bit more careful before I have to redesign the whole freaking thing again. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now it should be fine. Kind of like that. Oop. Yeah, that's gonna be okay enough. Not exactly the shape that I really wanted for this, but it's gonna be perfectly fine. Also, I will need to resize this. It's already way past 5 blocks. It's gonna be perfectly fine. Now then, as for the overall shape over here, how do I want to do this? So, I think what I'm going to do... Yeah, like something like this. Maybe stretched out a little bit more. Yeah, this will be fine. He says is yeah, this is not gonna be fine at all. I just did overdid it a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more interesting, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for. It's gonna be something like this, I think. Yeah, that'll be fine. There is nothing fine about this design. I already hate it. This is looking nothing like what I had in mind. But that's okay. It only gets worse from here. Because, ladies and gentle boys, it's time to put down the generator. Man, 5,000 generating. And it's still not enough. That's the terrible part about this. Like, I just put so much energy generation in, and it's still not enough. Yeah, this will have to go. We just don't have enough. Well, technically that's not really the fault of not having enough generator, right? If I'm completely honest, it would probably have to be something like this. Maybe even more, something like this. Yeah, this thing is not gonna jump at all. So, my question is, what do we do with the hyperspace problem? The new hyperspace jump mechanic, honestly, I can't tell you whether I like it or not. There we go, that's gonna be some storable energy, but not really. How do I do this? It'll probably need to be balanced out somewhere like this. The worst part is, we're not yet really done. Like, this handles terribly. And it's almost as if there's a reason why there's not a lot of ships using this sort of design. We'll figure this out. The sheer amount of titanium that this thing will need is honestly going to be kind of bonkers. Okay, now let's redo this. I think this is not where it should go. So this part right here, let's remove this. I think that this part right here can be taken up by the battery. We're gonna make it nice and very similar in size to this thing. Or try to. There we go. So the battery storage unit area, or whatever you want to call it, is going to be located here, which is perfectly fine. But the actual generator, the actual generation unit, will have to be placed somewhere here, as an extension of the engine itself. Which is, I mean, it's easy enough to do. You know, just smack it down, something like this. But I just have a feeling that, like, this is probably not the way to go. Especially with these gaps inside. Okay, that works. Yeah, I think that works. Looks really strange, and it probably costs a lot of titanium again, but oh, we're about to hit the six mark. What about the integrity? Okay, so this is still covered by the integrity field, oddly enough. And the rest of this can also be done. Okay. Okay, there we go. Something like that. I'll be perfectly fine. Let's go with armor. I think at this point, most of the ship is in fact done. Or at least the basic shapes are done. The only other thing that is left for us to do is actually make this thing somewhat decent to look at. Which, again, is easier said than done. Okay. So, that is currently what we got. And what we get is a ship that is incapable of actually yawing left or right. So perhaps kind of like a... You know what? No. Wait, there is a way to do this? I think... Oop, let's not do that. So this part over here, it's not going to be that big. Yes, I am in fact going to introduce a little bit more thrusters, which is probably going to eat our energy. But at the same time, it is going to make the ship a little bit more appealing. Because I kind of want to taper off this side a little bit. I'm not going to make it form-fitting for laziness reasons, to be completely honest with you. Okay, so just out of curiosity, let's take a look. Can this thing turn? Yes, it can. Will it be able to turn once I'm done adding all the armor components is a different sort of question. But with 34 minutes in, it's time for us to find out. So first things first, I think I'm going to redo this whole front thing. And what I'm going to do is just... You know, let's actually go middle snap for now. Something like this. Right? I'm not really... At this point, I don't care about the actual... storage. What I'm doing now is literally just for the sake of visuals. And there we go. That's okay. That's okay enough. Let's cover the sides. There we go. Yep. This is fine. So, by the way, I just decided this is not going to be the Scout. That's actually going to be my main combat ship. Once things get heavy. Now then, the way I want to make this visually is going to require a bit of planning, but I do think that I know how to make this interesting. So first things first, let's make this thing that it sticks out just a little bit, right? So this is going to be the root block, and this is how thick the armor is going to be. Right? So stay with me here. We're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to smack it on to the opposite side as well. It's most likely not going to be completely equal on both sides, but it's going to be equal enough. So we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Kind of like this. Like this. So, yeah, this is, technically speaking, spaced armor. Actually, no. Let's make it into many armors. So, let's go with local snap instead, and we're going to make the grid size as chunky as possible. Okay, let's see how big do I have to make it. Kind of like this. Okay. That's actually much better than I hoped for. Okay, there we go. So, this part... we're gonna figure this out. First things first, the integrity field is still covering this, but just barely. So my question is, if I make it as thin as possible... No, it is not gonna do that. But, if I make it like this... it will. Okay, that is good to know. But right now... we need to do something else. Be kind of like this. So this is a... okay, now it's a 45. There we go. And that's because we do want to continue this like this, or maybe even like this, so it kind of thins itself out towards the middle, or maybe even the opposite side, like it thins itself out kind of like this. Yeah, there we go. I think that looks interesting. I mean, it's almost obvious that it's not going to work in any measurable sense. And I'm pretty sure it's not being covered by the integrity field generator. Oh wow, it actually is. Holy hell. That is remarkable. Okay, so with that in mind, I do need kind of place to actually copy paste it from. Okay, is that still within yep. Oddly enough it is. Okay, so we're going to just copy paste all of this like this. And the center, so that's the reason why I added this thing, by the way, over here. Because then I can select this as the center. Boom, boom, there we go. That kind of looks neat. Kind of strange, but also kind of neat. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now we're going to start encountering the problem with brake thrust. And honestly, we're currently generating so much energy that perhaps placing down some inertia dampeners would probably benefit us very much ease. You know, let's try it. I don't think this is going to work as well as I think it will. There we go. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just like that, we basically doubled our energy requirement. Okay, let's cover all of this. There we go. Let's just very quickly just cover all of this up in armor. Yeah, I want to see if I can make use of the plating that we just designed over here. Over here as well. Probably not. It might look kind of weird if I did that. I guess that's perfectly fine. Honestly, I have a feeling that adding anything more would make this thing kind of strange. At least here. I think I'm going to leave this thing for the most part as it is. It's nothing, it's not really detailed, but probably in a good way. Yeah, that looks very strange need. Okay, so my question is, can I find a place for this thing here in its current setup? Because the gap between these two plates is obviously modeled after the gap there. My question is, like, can I just maybe make this kind of interesting to look at least? Not ideal. It looks a little bit strange. You know what? I kind of want to make it so that it looks like it's supposed to be there. At least to some degree. Kind of like that. Yeah, it looks so strange, I'll be completely honest with you. Kind of like that. And on the opposite side, I'm literally just going to flip it. Maybe move it like 1 pixel closer. Oop. That is not what I wanted to do. That is still not what I wanted to do. Come on. Hey, you know what? Snap with this thing. Close enough. Yeah, I think this is really as good as it gets at this point. Kinda don't like this part here. I had ideas for this part, it's just that I don't think that they're viable anymore. Yeah, let's just cover it as much as we can over here. Yeah, shipbuilding with Spazzy. 2 parts jank for every single 1 part interesting. So, do we still want this red or blue? Now, the worst thing is, even now, it's currently screaming at me. It's like, oh no, your thing is very low. I mean, this is a very interesting design, if I'm completely honest with you. And it probably has some sort of future. It just kind of feels like this front part is in fact finished, and just everything else currently is just kind of there. Like, this place would probably just benefit from some of the... Oh. You know what? No snap. Oh dear, no. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, there we go. Plate armor! The trick is to not give into the temptation to overlap them. Yeah, something like this, see? Because stuff like this does not really add too much to the weight of the ship, but it does make it kind of more visually interesting. So, I mean... So, obviously this thing is a little bit more advanced than the miner that we made. But at the same time, it is literally just something that the miners just kind of collage together to use as a combat ship, like a defensive ship. Yeah, something like that. And last but not least, let's just envelop this thing, like this whole thing into kind of like a cage. So we're gonna use local snap, and the grid size is gonna be minuscule, but the scale step is gonna actually be a minimum of 1. Actually, no, a minimum of 0.5. Yeah, there we go. And just go to middle snap. Screw it. Gonna be using some of these to protect the ship itself. You scale step. Don't do that to me. Okay, there we go. There we go. We're almost done. Let's make this place a little bit more interesting. kind of like this. And let it go down. Come on, don't do this to me. Why do you have to make it so troublesome? Almost. Yeah. Good enough. And the bottom is going to be completely unprotected. That's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Oh, no, 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 I have an idea, I have an idea, I have an idea. The question is, how much? Not a lot. Okay, it's okay. This is gonna be just mostly for, No snap! Yeah, this will be fine. Once all these things start breaking off, I'm going to regret doing this. Yeah, but right now that's completely fine. A little bit too symmetrical to make sense, but yeah, it's fine. So my question is, can I jump? I probably can. Okay, that's good. That's already good. Now the question is, can the captain jump? Because that's not always the case, is it? Let's wait for this thing to regen a little bit. But yeah, I really like the front of this thing. I think I pretty much kind of did what I really wanted to do with it. I don't care for this part. Like, I do believe that I will have to do something about it. But until then, that's not going to happen. Anyway, so my question right now is, if I tell my captain to actually jump somewhere, can they do that? Okay, yep, everything's fine. Alright. So far so good. The only thing that I need to do now is actually revert this thing back to what it is. So there we go. Now it's back to 4 sockets. And the current amount, like the current amount of stuff that you need to actually build this thing is completely reasonable. 141,000, and not that much problem with titanium or armor, and I will get that back. So for example, if I just place the Spazzy Scout right now, right? So Spazzy Scout 1, cost difference to the ship. Yeah. A little bit more titanium, a little bit more iron, and a lot more credits. But that's fine. Like that's actually perfectly fine. Alright. Ladies and gentleboys, I do believe we have made a interesting shippy so far. Looks rather interesting, don't you think? Anyway, this is Spazzy Dragon AK Syndromes. Fly safe, thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next episode.